Welcome to an explanation of the Republican tax proposals of 2017. This is Alan Artis. We'll start with background on taxation, then go through the GOP plans and claims, and then check the reality of those claims, and conclude with what we as citizens can do about it. Please follow the arrows clockwise around the screen. First, taxes are the cost of democracy. Taxes pay for infrastructure, defense, education, human services, and the operations of the government. As the country grew, the government, which they had formed to provide mutual services, built bridges and dams, organized the military, built schools, and set up health departments. To pay for the necessary resources, an income tax was put into the Constitution in 1913. Taxes were designed to be progressive. The higher the income, the higher the rate. In 1913, the wealth of the nation was highly concentrated in a small group at the top called the robber barons. Sound familiar? Consequently, only these very wealthy were taxed under the new law. After World War II, the income tax law was changed and made much less progressive. Taxation shifted to the middle class. The high corporate tax structure built wealth. Corporate taxes were at 50% from 1945 to 1985. Sounds high. However, the use of depreciation accounting shielded profit from taxes when it was reinvested back in the business. Therefore, industrialists did reinvest in plant expansions. Ownership of business assets, such as a factory, represented ownership of wealth just as much as owning a pile of cash did. Their manufactured goods shipped to market by the truckload represented jobs and wealth. As an example, this is the industrial plant that I helped build and expand. Each expansion was an investment that generated more jobs, more production, and more wealth. And they invested in people too by paying for my education. Everyone was regarded as a valued stakeholder: employees, vendors, customers, banks, communities, teachers, and investors. They all contributed to the success of the enterprise. It was a golden era. Then came Reaganomics, which changed all that. That brings us to the GOP Congressional Tax Plan. GOP policy underlies their tax plan. Paul Ryan wrote up the GOP policy and tax plan in a booklet he called A Better Way. The policy regurgitated the Republican mantra that social programs, which they called entitlements, are just welfare for lazy bums who won't work. Ryan says this tax plan will end the need for public assistance, and their beliefs include these. Social programs will end because the increase in national debt will simply starve them for funding. Jobs will be created for everyone at every level of ability, disability, age, health, education, and dependency. The magical and invisible hand of the marketplace will provide income for everyone. The GOP think tanks have turned out charts and graphs to prove their predictions to themselves. Business taxes will change. Corporate tax rates are reduced to 20%. The effective rates are even lower. A border tax is created, similar to a tariff. The tax is 20% on incoming product, and that covers almost everything we buy today. A territorial tax is implemented to encourage repatriation of foreign earnings. Currently, over $2 trillion of foreign earnings are stashed in offshore tax havens to avoid paying U.S. taxes. The new low territorial tax rate will apply to those earnings. The alternate minimum tax will end. As it's called, the AMT requires high earners to calculate their taxes twice and pay at least a minimum tax despite their loopholes. Next is the pass-through tax, which is the real treasure chest of these tax proposals. The pass-through tax is the centerpiece of this legislation. Normal corporate profit is taxed twice, first as corporate income and then as individual income, when the profit is distributed to stockholders as dividend payments. The pass-through tax applies only to small businesses and allows their profit to be taxed only once and at special low rates. It's important because 28 million firms are listed as small businesses and they employ over half the workers in the country. The top rate currently is 35%, and that comes down to 15%. The pass-through tax was intended to help small businesses making modest profits. However, over one-third of its users are wealthy financiers, including, guess who, Donald Trump. Again, the pass-through tax is the biggest prize for the wealthy in all these changes. Individual income taxes will change. The top bracket gets a 14% decrease, the rest get slivers of around 2%, and their government benefits are reduced to offset that sliver. Estate taxes are eliminated, or at minimum, the exclusion limit of $5.4 million is doubled. Capital gains and dividend taxes are reduced to an effective rate of 16%. Dozens of deductions and credits are changed in a scramble. In particular are these. The child tax credit increases the size of the credit. Under the current system, if the credit exceeds the amount of tax due, the taxpayer is sent a check for the difference. Under the new plan, they do not receive the difference. That's a confounding issue because it actually amounts to a big nothing. Corporate interest deductions will be decreased for some. Teacher expenses will be cut. Educational loan interest will not be deductible. Tax brackets will be made less progressive to allow top earners to pay less, either by consolidating brackets or changing the percentage of each bracket. The net effect of all these changes for the middle class is zero. Deductions and credits change. The child tax credit changes increase the size of the credit. Under the current system, if the credit exceeds the amount of tax due, the taxpayer is sent a check for the difference. Under the new plan, they do not receive a check for the difference. The credit is bigger, but they don't get it anyway. Mortgage interest deductions will be decreased for some. Teacher expense deductions will be cut. Educational loan interest will not be deductible. The tax brackets will be made less progressive to allow top earners to pay less, either by consolidating brackets or changing the percentage of each bracket. The net effect of those changes is zero. Funding and forms will change. The Federal Pension Guarantee Fund is eliminated. The fund helps retirees who are left penniless when their employers steal their pension funds. Social Security is not impacted now, but it will be in their next step. The GOP is not bold enough to tackle it right now. The IRS is reorganized and made smaller, and its funding is further reduced. The tax filing form will be simplified down to the size of a postcard. Don't stop laughing over that. Religion and health care and the environment will be compromised. The Johnson Amendment, separating politics and religion, is rescinded. Churches will be allowed to preach politics. Churches will be allowed to funnel money into politics. The Obamacare tax mandate is rescinded to cripple health care. That is a discussion in itself. Drilling in the Alaska National Wildlife Refuge will be allowed under this tax law. Implementation is staggered, and it is also on and off. The cuts will be staggered into effect now through 2037. Tax cuts for individuals will be turned on and then back off. Business cuts will be permanent. It's all smoke and mirrors. The GOP claims their tax benefits will create the following benefits. Everybody's taxes will be cut. Growth in the economy will be at a rate of 9% annually. Jobs will come back from overseas. The newfound wealth will be reinvested in the USA. Additional GOP claims the benefits go on and on. The charity deduction stays, so charitable giving will increase. Retirement plans will be saved. Everybody will be happy that the so-called death tax on states is gone. Trillions of dollars in overseas profits will finally be repatriated to the U.S. Tax filing will be simpler for people, and social program entitlements will end. Here's the reality of the GOP plan. The middle and lower income groups will get no net tax benefit whatsoever, zero. The child tax credit will amount to nothing because the excess credit is not returned to the taxpayer. Economic growth will not occur. Deficits and national debt will choke it off. The entire gross domestic product will be exceeded by 2033. Manufacturing jobs are not returning for multiple reasons. Saying this pains my heart. Here's my own office being torn down in the factory where I was plant manager. Globalization will remain. Americans are not willing to work for $1.50 an hour and tolerate pollution. More reality, loopholes will flourish. Corporate taxes will still be full of loopholes. The pass-through tax will be a bonanza for financiers and highly paid professionals. The pass-through tax loophole is the largest loophole of them all, and it gets even larger. Example, Trump's own businesses are organized as 500 sole proprietorships in order to qualify them for the pass-through tax rate. The border tax will create inflation, felt mostly by the middle class. The territorial tax will allow companies to set up mock headquarters in Bermuda and other tax havens, and then declare that all their earnings are foreign and therefore taxable only at the new low rate. The pass-through tax magnifies inequality. Business owners will pay a lower percentage of their income than their employees pay. The result will be hunger for some and indulgence for others. More reality of the GOP plan. Tax cuts are not going to increase charitable giving. Proof of that is Trump's own list of fake contributions. Social Security does not need fixing. Some minor adjustments would keep it solvent for decades. Eliminating the estate tax creates a class of drones who will suck off the wealth of the nation like plagues of financial parasites. Tax breaks will stay. The hundreds of special interest groups who have tax breaks now are not going to go away empty-handed. Partisan advantage is built in. It's just raw power politics. Business money shuffled through churches will turn them into political soapboxes. Televangelist corruption will increase as they help elect their benefactors. Cults will gain more political clout than they have now. The loss of deductions for state tax payments is targeted to hurt only Democratic states. Additional facts of the matters are these. Effective U.S. income taxes are among the lowest in the industrialized world. The U.S. rate of 23% is competitive globally. Social assistance programs are affordable, they do work, and they pay for themselves by elevating recipients out of poverty and into productive members of the economy. Only the federal government has the integrity to deliver social programs, states do not. Tax simplification is only a gimmick to sell this plan to the public. The simple, easy form already exists for those who need it. No certified public accountant is going to lose a job because of this tax proposal. The need for social assistance will not end. These are more facts of the matter. While the GOP calls it welfare to generate hostility, the fact is that Bill Clinton transformed welfare into workfare, and it is an effective program. The GOP is an army of spokesmen broadcasting that we need progressive consumption taxes like sales tax and lottery ticket sales. The poor will get poorer. Turning programs over to the states is a scheme to slash federal spending and avoid the blame for it. The plan will turn social programs over to conniving state officials. Underfunding the IRS will make tax cheating easier. Tax collection in the U.S. will look like tax collection in Greece, where it is a debacle. Paul Ryan and the GOP call this plan fair. It's not. The wealthy receive a disproportionate share of government benefits now, and they should pay likewise. They don't care what they do to the middle class. If they did, they wouldn't call this fair. Let's compare the histories of Republican and Democratic fiscal and tax policy. Republican fiscal policy has been a failure. They gave us the Great Depression and 2 Bush recessions. Reaganomics did not trickle down benefits. Instead, it led to the banking crisis, 2 recessions, mammoth debt, and deregulation that crippled workforce growth in America. The state of Kansas implemented the GOP plan aggressively to prove its benefits. The results have been a disaster. Business taxpayers flocked over to the new pass-through tax, far more than predicted. There was no compensating growth in the state economy. The state treasury was drained. Even the Republicans tried to buck these changes but couldn't fight off the right-wing nuts. Democratic tax policy has been a history of success. Measures of growth in personal income, corporate profit, gross domestic product, and stock market prices over the past 85 years have been consistently far greater under the Democrats. That's a fact. Democrats got us out of Republican catastrophes and debts, and that's because Democratic policies created solid economic growth. The velocity of money helps explain the success of stimulus policy. When Republicans have more money, they hoard it. The flow of money slows down, nobody benefits. When Democrats get money, they spend it. The money flow speeds up and, in fact, multiplies, creating jobs and prosperity. Republican policymakers refuse to admit this spending multiplier effect. Here's what we can do. Democratic plans offer comprehensive solutions and often require thoughtful explanations that are not summarized easily into sound bites. Republicans tell their story in simplistic terms and win public support even when their plan is counterproductive and deceitful. Action: Of course we need to elect Democrats and impeach Donald Trump. But, specific to taxes, get out the facts that we discussed here. Let people know that the current tax structure, although not perfect, works well for the country. It was reached with a lot of bipartisan compromise. Remind them again, 96% of the benefit of the GOP tax plan goes to the top, not to them. Tell them we want policies that work for all people and for their kids. Let them know that Paul Ryan is the Pied Piper that is going to lead the middle class and all our children over the economic cliff. If we don't stop this tax plan and keep what we have, then guess what? You're screwed. This presentation is available on YouTube by searching on my name, Alan Artis, or by contacting myself at this email address, aartis@tampabay.rr.com. Thank you. This is Alan Artis.